All right, I finished the John Muir Trail. If you want to see what was in my pack, stick around. Hey guys, Scott here from Outdoor Adventure Films. First off, I got to thank my man Chris for this awesome new backdrop. No, I'm not standing in the middle of the woods right now. My man Chris hooked me up with this backdrop that he made. He's at Woodalorian on Instagram, so check him out. So this is what I wanted to go over today. I finished my John Muir Trail hike, and I wanted to show you what I brought along on the trip to get me by for 3.5 weeks, what all was in the pack. So I'm going to take you outside to see what all I had in the pack, but first off, a little disclaimer, this isn't a full review on all the items. It's not designed for that. I'll kind of tell you my thoughts on some of them, but if I forget to mention or don't have that exact model number of something or exact name, brand name, then I'll mention it in the description below, so just check it out. But let's go outside and see what I got. Hey guys, Scott here again from Outdoor Adventure Films. It was about 6 months ago today. I was actually probably somewhere around Mammoth, about 2/3 of the way through my John Muir Trail hike. Wow, time flies. Well, today I wanted to go over with you all the gear I brought on my hike and just a little bit of how it worked out for me. I'll do full reviews later, but just want to kind of show you what all I had in the pack here. So let's start with that. Let's start with the pack. I went with Osprey's Rook sack. So I knew that Osprey was a reputable brand. Had good reviews on it, good suspension system, good warranty. What I wanted though too was to cut down weight. So rather than go for the Atmos, which has a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of pockets on the outside, I went with the Rook sack, which is just a real basic empty sack with just a couple pouches over here for water bottles and anything else you want to stuff here. Not a lot of other pockets on it. Now it does still have the brain on top with a big pocket on top and hip belt pockets here. Very comfortable hip belt, very comfortable shoulder straps there. Next on the big three, pack, tent, sleep system will be my my tent. I went with the big Agnes Fly Creek. I was very happy with this. I went from having a completely freestanding tent before to this is a semi-freestanding. It has poles. You don't need to use your trekking poles. It'll stand on its own, but in order to get full use of the full footprint, in order to make room in there for everything, you need to stake out the guy lines, and so it's kind of a hybrid, and I was real happy with it. What it did do was cut off about 3 pounds from the previous tent I was using, the old REI dome tent I was using. Next is my sleep system. I went with an air mattress. I do not sleep well on the foam mattresses, so I went with an air mattress. And I actually went with my wife's air mattress because it's a little smaller, is a little more packable, and a little lighter. So this is the REI brand women's air mattress, and I was very happy with it. It worked just fine for me. The only thing that hung out was my feet hung off the bottom, but that's not a problem for me. If that bothers you, then you might want something full size, something that fits your height. I was okay with this. I mean, some people only use a torso length mattress. I wanted something a little longer than that, but I was okay with my feet hanging off. Next part of my sleep system was my sleeping bag. I went with a Kelty Cosmo Down sleeping bag. Again, you're not going to see me going for a lot of real high dollar, high end items. I'm not that kind of backpacker. I'm more of a budget backpacker. And Kelty is a good middle of the road brand. It's not a cheapie. It's not a super high end one either. It's a 20-degree down bag, and it worked just great for me. Most of the nights were so warm because it was August when I went on the John Muir Trail that I was able to have the sleeping bag at least halfway open most of the night. There was one or two nights where it got below freezing where I had it zipped all the way up, but even on those nights it kept me warm. There was only one night where I put on my fleece, and I'm going to get to clothes in just a minute. But other than that, just sleeping in one layer in this kept me warm every night. Next on my sleep system, some might consider this a luxury item, which it is. but it was, I'm glad I brought it, and I'll bring it again for every other hike, was an air pillow. I used to just pack up my clothes inside my jacket or in another pillowcase and sleep on that, and I could get by with that. But this was $15, made by Trekology that I got off of Amazon, and I figured for 15 bucks, I'd give it a try. How could I lose? And it was great. Slept well on it. It held its air. I kept it in place by using a shirt to hold it in place over my air mattress, and slept like a baby on that. Moving on to my clothes. Actually, I'm going to move on to one other item, a backpack item. This is actually an ultralight day pack that I brought with me. That's because I was summiting Whitney, and I was keeping my pack, everything else at a base camp. Basically, we started at Horseshoe Meadow, went north, and we're basically bypassing Whitney, but I wanted to take the day hike up the backside of Whitney and summit Whitney. So rather than bring all my gear, I kept everything down at camp except for a day pack filled with just the snacks, water, and extra clothing I needed for the potentially cold temperatures up there. And this little day pack did great. I'd have to weigh it to see again what the actual weight of this is, but it's extremely lightweight. And again, this is the 4 Monster backpack. It's called 4 Monster, and has pouches on the sides for water bottles, has the main pouch, and another zipper here. Kept my snacks and things like that in here, kept my rain gear, and anything else I needed in there. Going back to my main pack, I did bring a trash bag as extra added protection for my items inside. So I just lined the inside of my pack with the trash bag. Then my sleep system went in and all that, and my clothes, so everything stayed nice and dry. If it started pouring rain before I could get my rain cover over my backpack, everything still was dry. But then with the rain cover and this, it was just good peace of mind. Keep everything dry. Last thing you want after a rainy day of hiking in the rain is to put on wet clothes at night, sleep in a wet sleeping bag. So I did encounter a bit of rain on my trip, so I was happy to have dry things when I got to camp. Okay, let's move on to clothing now. Basically what you see me wearing other than this hat is what I wore on the trail. I like these moisture wicking shirts. I just use the ones I get at races. If I run a marathon, 5K, something like that, I keep these, and I use them not only for running but for hiking. I think they're very comfortable to hike in. If they get wet from sweat or rain, they dry very quickly. They also are very packable. They pack down really small and light. So what I do is wear this for shirt. I have the kind of convertible pants. They've got the utility pockets that I use to keep my phone in, and I'll keep other things in the pockets. But also if it gets too hot, I can take off the legs and put them in my pack and hiking shorts too. I chose Merrell Trail Runners as shoes and Darn Tough socks. Extra pair here. I can't say enough good things about my Merrell Trail Runners and Darn Tough socks. 25 days of hiking and I didn't have any blisters. I've had blisters on shorter trips than that. So can't say enough about that combination. Like I said, I didn't wear this hat. Being a redhead, light, fair skin, I need that sun protection, so I brought this hat to wear. I wore this every day. What I did do as far as other things I brought one spare short sleeve moisture wicking shirt. That way if I didn't have time for my laundry to dry out, I always had a clean shirt to wear. This long sleeve shirt, it's another moisture wicking shirt I used usually around camp at night. I usually didn't have to hike in this. It was usually warm enough I was in short sleeves. So this was a good shirt for maybe some early morning hiking if I got up early and it was cold, but usually this was around camp in the mornings and evenings. Like I said, I used Darn Tough socks. I brought an extra pair just so every day I had a clean pair to put on. And I didn't bring my sleeping socks out here. I'll have to grab those later and show them to you, but I always wanted a separate pair of clothes to sleep in. My sleeping socks and my thermals, which I'll have those out here in a minute. Extra pair of underwear, always want a clean pair of underwear every day. My trusty knit hat, this kept me warm around camp. Again, I really didn't have to wear this hiking. I think the only time I wore it hiking was summiting Mount Whitney. It was pretty cold and breezy that morning, down around freezing temperatures and breezy. So this kept me warm there. And a buff, face mask, whatever you want to call it. This is a year of COVID, so I may not have had one of these or brought one of these if it hadn't been for COVID, but now I won't go on a hike without it. I really liked having it for a couple of reasons. So what this was great for was on a hot sunny day, I had it around my neck, kept the sun off my neck for sun protection. Also, if it was hot, I could dip this in a creek, get it wet, put it on my neck, cool me off. Conversely, on those cold mornings, cold evenings, I kept this dry and it kept my neck warm. So it was great for both reasons. And then of course, passing people on the trail. It's a year of COVID, cover my face and make sure I was polite to those other hikers I had passed. For a jacket, a little different than most. I know a lot of people use puffy jackets. I have this fleece jacket, Columbia jacket, that I find extremely comfortable. I love this jacket, kept me warm, like I said, comfortable. So I will definitely be using this until it wears out. I will say when it wears out, for a couple of reasons, I probably will transition to a puffy jacket. It's hard to beat them. They're so packable, so light and warm. And I have learned more recently, for environmental reasons, they might be better too than the fleece that when you wash it, it sheds the material. So might go to a puffy next, but for now, I love this fleece and I wear it around town and hiking. It's great. That's it for my clothes. Moving on to, one more thing, clothing item, my rain gear. Once again, I don't go for the high dollar items. I always try the budget items first, and what I found for the most part, they worked out great for me. Frog Togs, I have used these on multiple trips. I actually had to break them out and wear them in the rain. Had to break them out on the High Sierra Trail a few years ago. They kept me dry on the John Muir Trail. Used them a few times, kept me dry. They're cheap, they're relatively light, and I always kept them right up here on top of my pack where I could get to them quick if it started raining. Okay, last items of clothing to cover are what I slept in every night. So, I slept in my REI Co-op thermals. They worked great. I only used them for sleeping. If I had been hiking in really cold temperatures in the snow or blizzard conditions, maybe I would have worn these, but I didn't even wear them the day I hiked Mount Whitney. I think I brought them in the little day pack, but didn't use them. Those are just for sleeping. That way I had something nice and clean to sleep in every night. Also, these socks, I never hiked in these. These were strictly for sleeping in. So I had nice, clean, warm socks. These are really thick wool socks. I don't know the brand, but it was nice to have those separate socks just for sleeping in. For food, I used the Bear Vault BV500, the big guy. The first stretch of our trip, we had a 12-day food carry, so there's no way I could go any smaller than this. In fact, this was stuffed to the brim. So I'm very happy with this. Also with the taller one, it gives you a seat at camp, either a seat or if you've got somewhere else to sit, it gives you a table to work on. So I really love this bear canister. Comes with me on every hike now. The rest of my cook system, I'm still using an old pot that was handed down to me. Thank you, Uncle Daryl. Handed down to me several years back, and it's just an REI pot and works great. Fits my whole meal in it, and then I'll use it for heating up coffee in the morning, oatmeal in the morning, and I cook on the MSR stove, the small one here. I just like this because, once again, like I said before, I try to keep my weight down on the trail. I'm not an ultralight backpacker, but I do try to keep the weight down, and this is very functional. So I was real happy with this guy. Heated up my water super quick, boiled my water, and just goes right on the top of one of these fuel canisters. Right here, just screws on. As far as the fuel canister, I actually went with a bigger size than this because, like I said, I did have that long carry with no resupply the first half of my trip. This is just a 4-ounce, I believe. I actually went with the really big one, which was a little bit overkill. I think it was 16 ounces, and it actually lasted me the whole trip. I never had to buy another one of these. Probably what I would do if I were going to do that hike again is bring an 8-ouncer and halfway through ditch it, buy a new one, another 8-ouncer. That would have been that way I wouldn't have been carrying such a big fuel canister. To light my stove, light fires, I brought matches as well as one lighter. For coffee in the mornings, I had my little, it's a Sea to Summit cup. And this one is the one that holds 2 cups. So 2 cups right here, Sea to Summit. Drink my coffee in this every morning. It's great, real packable, packs down nice and flat. It just went right inside my pot when I packed up. My utensil is my daughter's Girl Scout fork, spoon combination. Hey, I used what I got and it worked great. So no jokes please, but worked great. Always kept a sponge, towel to wash my dishes with afterwards. This cook system, this pot came with this net to kind of store everything in, pack it all in, holds it all together when it's packed up or at night. All right, let's move on to some of these other smaller items here. Before these smaller items, let's talk about trekking poles. I did use trekking poles all the time. These trekking poles are made by Outdoor Products. Again, a real budget item. I can't remember what I paid for them. I've had them for so long, but they've lasted for many years, and they work great. They're telescoping, so they expand, and as you can see, I wrapped duct tape around the top. That way, if I need any duct tape, it's right there ready for me, and I don't have to bring a separate roll of duct tape and try to pack it away somewhere. So for water, what I did was, a couple years ago, I moved to the Sawyer Squeeze, and that was a game changer for me. So I bring the Smart Water bottle coupled with the Sawyer Squeeze, and I love that combination. I moved away from a couple years ago. I was using the pump water filter, and that just got old real fast. And this, I just fill up my water in the creek, put on the Sawyer Squeeze, drink right through it, and it's worked great. I'll do a separate review on water filtering at another time, where I'll really go to depth about all this can do. Just another one little side note here is I swap out the top for a sport cap. I like that better. It's easier, I think, for drinking out of. You can flip it open with one hand. You don't have to touch the part your lips are touching like you do with this one. So when your hands are dirty out there in the woods, I like that better. I think it's cleaner. My sunglasses, wore those every day. My Arnett sunglasses. Let's talk a little bit about safety. I brought this little container that held some Band-Aids, things like that. I just kept it in my hip pocket so it was easily accessible, along with this. I just kept it in this plastic baggie. It's a ace bandage and some gauze in case there's something that a Band-Aid couldn't handle. Also, what you don't see here is I brought sunscreen and chapstick. Again, fair skin. I used sunscreen every day, chapstick every day. Even if you don't think you have fair skin, up there in the high altitude, you got to protect yourself. Bring sunscreen, chapstick with SPF protection, and keep yourself safe up there. That was for safety. Moving on, I knew I wanted to make a video for my family of this hike, so it was really important to me that I kept my phone charged the entire trip. So I brought this solar charger, phone charger, so I hung this off my back every day, off my backpack, and kept it charged, and then at night I would charge my phone off of this. Because it was such a long hike and I knew that this charges extremely slow in the sun, I also brought a phone charger that runs off batteries. That did add some extra space and weight that I normally wouldn't want to carry. And any other shorter hikes, there's no way I'm bringing this. Wasn't really happy with this. Basically, you would get about 3/4 of a phone charge off the batteries that went in this, and then the batteries were done. So this was much better for charging my phone. It's just it takes a long time to charge in the sun. But so for most hikes, it's just going to be this guy. That it'll be more than enough for most hikes. Even probably a 2-week hike, 3-week hike, this might get you through. Headlamp, again, a budget item, Energizer headlamp that I wore. The only time I ever hiked in the dark was the morning I summited Mount Whitney. The other times I was just used at camp. So I do suggest definitely bringing a headlamp, but depending on your hiking style, if you don't do a lot of night hiking, you Probably won't need it a whole lot. Probably don't need to bring a lot of extra batteries. Might be a good idea to bring one extra battery, or at least one set, whatever yours takes. I did bring extra batteries, a little overkill, more than I needed. Next, kind of while we're talking about safety items and things like that, were my Thomas Harrison maps. These were great. I mean, could I have gotten by without them? Of course, the John Muir Trail is very well marked and I wouldn't have gotten lost. But what this really did was each night I would sit down and look at this and kind of plan out my next day, and it really helped with planning, you know, where I wanted to get to, where I might camp, altitude, so I could look, what's the weather look like? Do I want to really move on at this higher altitude when there's potentially a storm coming, which I ran into a lot of storms. So this has, you can see the trail, you can see the altitudes. I strongly advise, even if you're using an app like Guthooks or something like that, I'm a strong proponent of paper maps. Electronics can fail. This generally isn't going to fail, even if they get wet. I kept it in plastic, but these are supposed to be water resistant. They're kind of have a filmy layer on them to protect them. I have an old watch with a broken wristband that I don't wear on here, but I keep it in my hip pocket and hip belt pocket, and then at night, the main reason I have this is to set an alarm. I wanted sometimes to turn my phone completely off at night so I didn't run down the battery at all, and so I use this guy to wake me up at 6 in the morning. That's pretty much the only reason I brought that. So this item here I hung off of my backpack. This is my trowel. As you know, you just bury your business. On the John Muir Trail, I don't think these are mandatory yet, but they probably should be, and they probably will be at some point. I talked to a ranger who said she spent the whole day burying other people's bathrooms. So don't do that. That's just disgusting. Other hikers have to come across it. The rangers have to deal with it. It gets into the water, so make sure you bury it. Use a trowel, bring a trowel. I also wanted to fish on this trip, so this is my little tackle kit here. I'll have my fishing pole in a minute to show you. For my tackle kit, all I used was a plastic bag to keep it in. I brought a couple of lures, some extra treble hooks, some extra weights, a very small lightweight stringer, and then for pliers I just used these medical little tiny forceps here. They work great and much smaller and lighter than actual pliers. This is the fishing pole I brought with me. The brand name is escaping me right now, but I'll post it in the description below. This is a telescoping backpacker's fishing pole, and I loved it. It worked great. It might be a little heavier than some others, so it did add some weight to my pack, but it was kind of nice. It was great for fishing. It's a full-size reel. You could probably get by with a smaller reel, but it's what it came with. And it expands to full size. If you watch my movie, you'll see me fishing with it a couple times, and I caught a few fish on it. So I like this fishing pole. I'll definitely be bringing it again on my next hike. And the one thing I brought that I did not use at all, I thought I might need some extra rope to hang clothes on, something like that. Never used this once, so I don't know. I think probably in the future I won't bring this. I didn't, out of 25 days, never found a use for it. So that's something I think I'll leave at home next time. I did keep a little short strand of it on my pack to just hang, if I had any wet clothes that were still wet or anything like that when I started hiking, I stuffed them up there. So that's probably all I need. I don't think I need all this. Okay, so what I didn't have outside for you were my toiletries, just a few of the things that I had to get by out on the trip. Had to bring a little soap, so I brought this Dial soap container with me. Some shampoo, Suave shampoo. I brought the Aussie Moist Mega conditioner. Half bottle Listerine. As you can see, I only made it through half the bottle. I only needed half the bottle. And I mean, just because you're out camping, backpacking in the woods doesn't mean you don't want to look good. So I brought the Sculpting Gel and Glaze number 8 styling gel. So I had that with me on. No, I didn't have any of that stuff. Sorry, corny dad jokes, had to do it. No, really, what did I bring on the trip with me? So here we go. First off, I did bring sunscreen. This isn't the one I brought with me. I'm not trying to make a joke again about a big container. I just ran out of the container I brought. So the one I brought with me was just a little bit smaller than this. It was 50 plus SPF sunscreen though. Like I said, I've got fair skin, so I always wanted to have good protection out there on the trail. Next, my fancy toiletry bag here. What do we have inside? Of course, toothbrush, a must. I brought the small toothpaste. I brought one of these with me and had one small one in each of my resupply boxes. Same thing with the chapstick. This one is SPF 15, and same thing. I brought one with me and I had one in each resupply bucket. As far as soaps and deodorants, there's different schools of thought on that. I've gone some trips where I've, as they say, embraced the stink. On this one, I decided, you know, kind of last minute when I was shopping, I found this small thing of soap and a small deodorant. And you know what, these were really small and light. And I figured, you know what, why not? Let's try taking these. And I was glad I did. I went to bed clean every night. I was able to get cleaned up by getting a rag wet from a creek or lake and use some soap. And then use a little deodorant, and I was clean every night when I got into my sleeping bag, which I liked. I didn't have any funky smelling sleeping bag by the end of my 25-day trip. So, I don't know, I think I'm going to go ahead with bringing soap and deodorant on my next trip. I liked it. I enjoyed staying clean. And I always bring hand sanitizer with me on the trail. Good to have that, keep your hands clean. Also, even though I did bring the soap and deodorant, I bring some wet wipes in a little plastic baggie on each trip. That way, if I'm somewhere where I, you know, say I get caught sleeping somewhere where I don't have a water supply nearby me and I want to conserve the water I do have, I can use those. Or maybe I've already cleaned up and I'm walking around camp in my flip-flops and my feet get a little dirty, I can use those wet wipes before getting in bed. So I always bring wet wipes with me on the trip, on the trail too. Last item, I did bring insect repellent. Brought this little guy right here. It's Repel 100. I went in August and I was very fortunate. Mosquitoes weren't bad at all. I never pulled that thing out. I never had to use it. I think at camp one night, mosquitoes started coming out and it was time to go to bed anyway. So I never had to put that on, which is kind of nice because that gets you all greasy and everything. And you know, it's good to have if you need it, but I try not to use it. So those were my toiletries for the trip. Oh, of course, I brought some toilet paper too. I don't have that here, but any toilet paper will do. Oh, one more thing. I always brought a baggie of aspirin, vitamins, and Imodium AD. The aspirin would be just in case there's some issue with altitude sickness. I never had that problem on this trip. Vitamins I take every morning with my breakfast, and then Imodium AD. I'd never had to use it, but I was on a trip where it would have been really nice to have it for somebody, so it could be a lifesaver on a trip. I probably won't go on a trip without it, if not for me, for somebody else that's on the trip with me in case somebody needs it. That's an anti-diarrheal out on the trail that can be really dangerous, dehydrates you really quick, so good to have that just in case. So that's what I had in my pack on this trip on the John Muir Trail. If you found this video at all useful or entertaining, then please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.